All right, so it is 12 noon. Marcy, can you hear me? So hopefully everyone can hear. And the only thing I can't see is the presentation, Marcy.
Are you ready? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead and by the time we actually get going here, it'll be 12:01, which start at some point. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We appreciate you all jumping online with us today. This is the first time we've been doing lunch and learns here for a while, but this is the first time that we've actually thought of the idea to try to get information out a little bit ahead of time and before the certificate of existence starts off. So hopefully that's a step in the right direction for us and for all of you fire departments out there. We appreciate and use all the information that comes in from the certificate of existence. A lot of that information we do have to turn over is the wrong word, but report to the legislature, and a lot of that information we use in our annual report and try to get back out to you all as well so that we get as much data as we can on the North Dakota Fire Service and make sure we know who the North Dakota Fire Service is, what it does, and what it needs for the future. So with that, we'll kick off this webinar, which is the Certificate of Existence process for 2024. We'll run through quick is just what the agenda is, just a real brief intro to our office, and then we'll go into the Certificate of Existence items. Before we get started, I do want to introduce Marcy, who is our administrative assistant at the State Fire Marshal's office and is taking the lead on a lot of community risk reduction items for our office. And this is one of those, the Lunch and Learn program, where we're trying to be better at getting information out ahead of time to the fire department so you can use that in your operations and prevention on a daily basis. Also on the call, we do have Jacob Just, our public information officer at the insurance department, and he's helped us with a lot of this setup and being able to get this information out too. He's developed our website, and we're trying to make that more of a resource as well. So I do want to say thank you to Marcy and Jacob. And Marcy, do you have anything to add, or would you like to introduce yourself anything further?
We should probably point out that if you want to talk, because of the way this meeting is set up, you're muted. But if you do the raise hand feature, I'll see you and unmute you and we can get you in there. But if you have any questions, you can also put them in the chat and we can get them answered that way too.
And we'll make sure we leave time at the end for questions. So with that, Marcy, if you want to go ahead and start clicking through the presentation, and between you and I think we should be able to cover all of the topics, hopefully. So today we're going to talk about, I'm going to give a real quick overview of our office for anybody that isn't as familiar with us or is maybe a new fire chief or a new firefighter in the state. We'll talk about the Certificate of Existence program. We'll walk through an actual training one. So it will be an actual fire department, but it's in our training system program. So it's not going to actually change their record or anything. But we are going to try to walk through as much of one as we can, just so that everybody can see what it looks like, how it progresses through the certificate of existence, and find out any questions or issues we have. Go ahead to the next one. So real quick, our office right now, we have 8 deputy fire marshals. 7 of those positions are filled and have deputies in those offices. The only one that doesn't right now is the green area up in the northwest right there. We are still searching for somebody out of the Williston area or somewhere up in the northwest area. We're looking to establish an office because that is a difficult geographic region to reach the next closest deputies that we have to Williston and Watford City and Divide County is a good 2 hours, 2.5 hours away, depending on where you are in that area. So we are hoping that we can get that filled as soon as possible, and we've been working on that for about a little over a year here. Of our 8 deputy fire marshals, we do have 2 senior deputy fire marshals that help with training and oversight of the deputy fire marshal workload and work with the deputies on, kind of a case by case basis, on a daily basis, on the workload that they do, inspections, plan review, and investigations. So Marcy and myself are the only 2 in the main office in our division. And we report to the insurance commissioner. Our role, most of you kind of are pretty well aware of that. I would say public education, the big thing that we're trying to really push and press further into is community risk reduction to encapsulate a little bit more of a overall look at what we can do as the fire service to be helping our communities and the public. So we kind of use public education and community risk reduction, at least within our office, as kind of interchangeable. But the goal is to really identify what those risks are in the community, get that data out, and then hopefully find ways to help mitigate those and reduce those risks. Roles further, specific things that we do adopt a state fire code that is currently the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code. We do try to stay on the exact same timeline as the state building codes so that we keep those as uniform as possible. Due to the administrative rules process and that we do reference the building code, we are usually about 6 months behind the building code adoptions, but we do try to keep that within that 6 months so that we're not ever too far off. So right now we are on the same edition as the building code, and the building code is just starting to look at the 2024 edition, in which in turn, within about the next 6 months to a year here, we'll start looking at the 2021 edition with fire chiefs and fire marshals around the state. I think that's the biggest stuff I wanted to cover on this one. We do fire investigations. We often get the question of when do we have to call? Uh, we don't like to answer that very directly. Reason being, we want to be here to assist the local fire departments when they need us. So our answer is when it is something that either you don't want to deal with, feel comfortable dealing with, um, uh, it's you're not don't just too busy to deal with it. Whatever the case is, whatever scenario is, that's where we want to be able to step in and help as a state fire marshal's office. So when you request us, that's when we want to be able to mobilize and get out there and help you with fire investigation or fire inspection, whatever the issue that you're having is at the local level. We do request that we get notified of all fatalities and injuries if possible. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're coming out to investigate them, just means that we just want to know that information so we can ensure that it's getting reported correctly and track that, because those are such critically important numbers to our state and our state fire risk in North Dakota. So we also do fire inspections and code enforcement. Same thing there. If you have questions, issues, concerns, please let us know. Our deputy fire marshals do try to reach out when they are working in your backyard in an effort to coordinate and work together and help each other out. So please don't hesitate to jump on an inspection with them or give us a call if you're having any issues locally. Um, Same thing with plan review. We do try to catch as much plan review as we can. The big things that we're looking at with plan review are going to be fire protection systems. So your sprinklers, fire alarms, hood suppression systems in kitchens. And then we also look at above ground storage tanks, LP tanks, and we will review childcare, new child cares, and new bars and assemblies when they're renewing their liquor licenses. Well, we touched on public education. Those are just a few of the things that we are trying to do through community risk reduction and make sure that we're providing as high as a service as we can to the state fire service. Okay, so we also run a number of special programs. One of those being fire reporting, property insurance loss. One thing that you may not know is every cigarette in North Dakota is supposed to be listed and labeled as a fire safer cigarette. So if you ever run across a package of cigarettes, you should be able to look on the barcode, and there should be a little FSC designation on every cigarette. If there isn't, then we have an issue, and that's something that we definitely want to know about too. So just a few of the special programs that we run, and the one that we're here to talk about today is the certificate of existence. So in the office, a lot of times if you call and have questions, we sometimes shorten it to COE. So I might even do that in this presentation. COE for us just means the certificate of existence program for fire departments. That is under Century Code. Particularly three things that you need to know as a fire chief that are required under the fire code for the certificate of existence program is that the fire department must be in existence for 8 months. It must meet the minimum requirements of an ISO 9 public protection classification or better. Uh, for those of you who aren't very familiar with the ISO ratings, 10 is essentially ISO basically refers to that as no fire protection. Number one is the best rating that you can get. We do have departments at each rating throughout North Dakota in different places. The majority of our fire departments overall in North Dakota are somewhere in that 6 to 9 range for ISO ratings. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go through ISO, but at a minimum, you'd have to provide documentation to our office that you meet the minimum requirements of an ISO 9 if you don't actually have that score. We do through Century Code, it's also required that you must report fires to the state fire marshal under 18.1-06 that says the fire chief must report fires within 30 days, which is also why we send out a reminder every month to please go into the systems, whatever system you're using, and make sure your incidents are up to date, reviewed, and submitted correctly. There are a lot of further other items in the Century Code that are also covered, but kind of gets into the weeds a little bit more of the dates, the different dates, and how the checks get written out and so forth. Steps in the COE process. So number one, we need you to register in the system. Now, the nice thing is since it is through the North Dakota Internet Technology Department and DITD, that should be the same username that you can use, I believe, in password that you can use if you do a hunting license or fishing license, or if you are in registered with NDFA, I believe you can use the same username and password. It should be the same thing as your other state programs, and you would just need to go in particularly and ask for permission for us to use that username for our system, and then we can let you into it. So once you get yourself registered as an external user, which we'll cover some of these topics further in this PowerPoint, then you have to go and log into your fire department. Once that's complete, you click submit, forward it on. Then we need your auditor or your secretary treasurer to go in and verify the information, sign off on it, and then submit it, do the final submittal to our office. The reason we need the second signature is it is required under the current Century Code of 1804 that we do have two signatures on there or some level of verification that, yes, all the information is true and accurate. Then the certificate of existence gets reviewed by our staff. If there are no discrepancies, you get the certificate of existence, which we have not necessarily updated our logo yet, but that's what it currently looks like. And you get that submitted, either submitted to yourself or it's in your fire department's page with us. So if you have questions or need that documentation or need any history on your department's certificate of existence, let us know and we can run that for you as well. So 5-step process. Hopefully it's we're keeping those as reduced as we can. So how to get in and register as an external user. You can go to our website. As I said earlier, we're trying to really hard to make our website as much of a resource to fire chiefs as we can for fire prevention matters. So if you go to the fire department's window, the gray bar up top with the yellow arrow, and go down to the report here, that should take you to the next page, which should look like this. It'll ask you for that state user ID and also your password. And then if you don't have those, it also has the register as a new user. You will have to create an account if you're registering as a new user, so that will take you through those state steps of creating that user ID for yourself. So if you do have one, you can just register as for permission in our system. If you don't, then you'll have to go through these steps. Once we see you in there as a new user, we do check that at least every 2 to 3 days, especially throughout the certificate of existence season. However, we're usually in that all year round pretty regularly. If you don't hear from us, if you've applied as a new user or applied as a new fire department or need access to a fire department and you don't hear from us in 2 to 3 days, give us a call and we can check to see if we see it, or we can start troubleshooting that to make sure that we're in there and get you approved so you can proceed. Marcy, do you want to cover this one just a little bit? I guess this is where if you have multiple fire departments.
Sure. What'll happen once you got your new login ID, the first time you log in, it's going to ask you what your FDID is. If you don't have the correct, actually, I think it happens a little sooner, but if you don't have the correct FDID, it won't connect you to the right fire department. And we get a lot of people who guess or thought that they knew what it was or mistype it or whatever. And so then we have to start over. But there's also a lot of folks who work with more than one department. And so if you click on the I serve at another department, like you see over there to the right, you'll get another line. And then we can approve you for working with more than one department at a time.
Great, thank you. So once you do get logged in, either for your multiple fire departments or for your fire department, once you go in and log into that system again, then it should actually show up after you put your username and password in for you. Once you're ready to start that certificate of existence, which you can start at any time, you can save at any point too and come back later. And hopefully, as long as all the technology works, not lose your information. We haven't had too many issues with that. But you'd click edit to go in and start that certificate of existence. One thing to note is our certificate of existence is only open from August 1st to March 1st each year. However, the actual fire department program is open year round. So if it's general fire department information, or if it is updates to the fire chief staff, which we know a lot of that occurs after the first of the year, or updates to your personnel or staffing, you can put those in at any time. So you can just sign in, go into there and edit that and keep that updated. Uh, do note our save button is actually called finish later. So I don't know why we didn't go with save, but it is noted in there as finish later. So if you are going to save to try to come back to it, make sure you find the finish later button. A couple of big items that we actually have to verify and check for and are trying to get better at notifying you all of when we either see issues or make sure that we are holding everybody the same standard is we do need that date or the year that the fire department or district was established. Um, we do check to see if that's on there, and we'll let you know if we don't. Reason being is it does ask us to verify that the department's been in existence. Usually that's not an issue. We don't have a whole lot of brand new fire departments starting up out there, but since it's called out in Century Code, we do specifically check for that. Your fire chief and other names. So your fire chief, your assistant fire chief, your treasury secretary. We do want to make sure that information is in there. So please provide that. That is how we contact and communicate with you. That's how you most likely found out about this lunch and learn. It's how we send out our data reports to that list. Um, any of our blogs or any other important information that we come across throughout the year for the fire service, that's how we send that information out. So please make sure your chief names and contacts are up to date and correct. We do get a lot of emails that come back into our system that aren't entered correctly or aren't valid anymore. So just please double check those and make sure they're accurate in there. Also, other fire service organizations in the state use that as well. Department of Emergency Services, the Forest Service, NDFA all have access to that list. So if you are looking for information from any of them, they use that list as well to contact you and communicate with you. So our ISO rating. We do get an updated list from ISO each year of all of the class 10 fire departments. Again, that's the ones that are uh, the way ISO puts it is essentially no rated fire protection. We do that because what we're looking for is all of them that are a 10 to make sure that we are holding them all to the same standard on the Century Code of meeting the minimum requirements of a Class 9. So we do verify that with their list. If you are on that list, you'll hear from us and get a letter or an email with us questioning that and seeing if you can either provide documentation from ISO or that you do meet those requirements we'd be looking for. Your fire status and how you report is important to us. We want to make sure that we know that information and that it's up to date, and that we have all the fires reported in the state and have as many fire departments complying and reporting with that as possible. So we do go into the National Fire Incident Reporting System and we verify that this time of year. So if you are a department that only has a handful of fires a year and you wait until December to put those into the system, you will hear from us and we'll send you a letter saying, hey, you don't comply with this program. So please note that. And if you can even get one fire in or one incident in so that we can see that you're complying and actively in the system before August or before you submit your certificate of existence, that will help clear up any confusion on that. We'll see that you're reporting. We won't send you any kind of letters or emails, and we'll move on to the next thing we check. If anyone ever has any questions about getting into the system or fire reporting, please contact our office. We're happy to help out. The other items that are big for us that we look at are comments. We do have a box just asking for general comments. We're looking for not necessarily specific certificate of existence, anything that you have for our office, anything positive, negative, what we can do better, more of, what's working for you, what's not. Please let us know. That's one of our few places that we actually ask for feedback as a general and as a whole from the fire departments every year. So we're always open to it, but this is just one of the few formal processes that we have for that. The other thing is the financial information. This specifically, we do have to report to the budget section of the legislature every 2 years. And I believe that will be coming up this fall. And so please note, the more accurate you are on the financial information, the better it is for the legislature. They're looking for the detailed information just so that they know how that money is spent, where it's spent, that it is being spent, that type of information. So the better detail you can provide in that section, the more accurate it can be, the better report it is when it goes over to the legislature. So we appreciate that. Marcy, do you mind covering these slides
No,
here?
not at all. So as Doug was mentioning, the financials part, this part gets kind of tricky for a lot of people. There's a couple of fluky little things that hang people up all the time. One of them is if you put a dollar sign in there, it's not going to work. It doesn't like the dollar signs. It likes decimals just fine, but not dollar signs. So you will get what I've highlighted there in the yellow, you'll get a note about it. The next thing is that if you'll notice, the numbers that I've put in here, it says that the insurance disbursement sent you $100, that you spent $100, but then your total balance is $100, and that math doesn't work. So it's going to hang you up on that too. So those are a couple of the areas that are that trip a lot of people up. So this one is done. I'm sorry, one?
If I can just add in there quick too, sorry, Marcy,
No,
is the annual department district budget. We did ask for
good point.
that. That number, what we're actually looking for from there is not your distribution from the state, but we're actually looking at what your total budget is so that we can have that number as comparison as to how much you're state funded and how much you are locally funded. One of the big things that we did with that recently was we turned some of that data over to or we compiled it and turned it over to the governor's office because they were looking at the property tax measure that's coming up. And they said, how much would this hurt local fire departments' budgets if they didn't have property taxes anymore? And so we tried to give those numbers as a rough idea for, hey, there is a significant portion, probably in a lot of cases, the largest portion comes from property taxes versus the state fire insurance tax distribution. So we're just trying to give them some more data to look at what the actual effect of removing property taxes would do to fire departments in the state. So it is important, just another number in there. I just want to explain that one because it doesn't quite fit with the rest being related to the certificate of existence and the fire district distribution. So
Very good
sorry.
point. No, that's something we always wonder about. So this page is filled out correctly. So we gave you $100, you spent 90 of it, you have $10 left. Of that remaining balance, you're going to put $5 toward new equipment. And what Doug was just talking about with the district budget, $2,500. So it gives you an idea of kind of what that's supposed to look like.
So when we see it submitted, that's when our role kicks in. So what either myself or Marcy are going to do is we will open up your certificate of existence that you've submitted. We'll review it and make sure everything is as complete as possible, especially that key data that we've already covered, the financials, the fire reporting, the ISO, all of those boxes. We want to make sure those are for sure checked and correct. We're going to check that date, ISO status, or review the financials for accuracy. We do not, we are not auditors. We're not financial experts. So we do not review your financials for exact amounts. The only thing that we kind of review for is if somebody slipped and entered, $100 million instead of 10,000, and they added four extra zeros. That's what we look for. Is there anything that's going to offset our actual report when we report it to the legislature that's going to make our numbers look really goofy or just out of place? We don't look for down to the dollar, down to the cent, or anything that detailed. So please, just for all of you chiefs and fire departments and everyone out there, just make sure it's as accurate as you can possibly make that, because that helps us when we report it. If everything checks out, then we're going to approve that. And I do not think we necessarily you don't get necessarily an email, but if there are any questions, you can always contact our office. And you should also be able to log into that and see your certificate at some point. And if your certificate has been submitted and you haven't heard anything for I'd say in this time frame from August to October, it gets a little busy with these. So sometimes we do get backed up a couple weeks if other things are going on. But if you don't hear from us in 2 weeks, probably, if you've submitted your certificate, please call us and check, and just let us know, and we can go into the system, see where it is, see if we missed it, see if there's some reason that it's not submitted, if it's hung up with your auditor or secretary, or where it is in the process. We can help with that. So when to expect your distribution? Usually the insurance department starts writing those out in November. I will say the sooner you get those out, the sooner you can get your check and get that within the same fiscal year. Certificate of existences do need to be submitted to our office prior to October 31st. We will work with fire departments if they're having issues past that point. However, in Century Code, it does say that they are required to be submitted to our office prior to October 31st. So we are trying to hold everyone to that as much as possible and get those done in a reasonable time frame. So a couple new items specifically this year. We do have a broken feature in the system that we have not been able to get IT to fix yet. Luckily, it's nothing critical to the data or how it's collected or anything like that. But we do have an email forwarding feature. So as a fire chief, if you go in and you do all of your data entry and you click submit and put in your auditor or secretary or treasurer's email, it will get to them so that they can go into it and fill it out. And either one of you, as long as you're a user in our system, should be able to go in there at any time. But the thing it won't do is when you're clicking submit, it won't necessarily send the email to them notifying that now it's their turn to go in, or vice versa if they go in before you and submit it to you. The email forwarding portion is broken. So it is on yourself to communicate with your auditor, secretary, or treasurer where you're at in the process, and to ensure that whoever needs to go in second knows and can go in there and confirm that information and sign off. Again, we are pushing hard to try to get as many of these in by October 31st as possible. In the past, this program has stretched out until March. Like we said earlier, we do have the program open until that point because there is some century code language that says we can accept them that late. But it does get to be a lengthy process and gets confusing of when we send those checks, what fiscal year they're going out in, and what fiscal year we're reporting data in. So we are trying to get those in this season as much as possible from August 1st when we open to October 31st when we should technically be closed and have them all in. So if there's anything we can do to help you get those in time, please let us know. We did remove I believe 5 fire departments from the certificate of existence list. Reason that those departments were removed was they had received 4 years of notifications that they were not meeting one of those critical criteria, the fire reporting, the ISO minimum requirements. And so we did notify them over the last 4 years. We've reached out to try to help those departments, as we will continue to do with all departments. But we did get to that point where they did not receive their funds, and we are moving them this year until they reapply and provide proof that they can report and meet the ISO 9. So we are at that point where it is can affect fire department budget and your fire insurance tax distribution actually getting to the department now. If you need any help, Marcy or I are happy to try to help. I will tell you that Marcy is usually available a little more than I am and probably more helpful. So please don't hesitate to reach out, but either one of us will try to help however we can and try to get into the system to see where your certificate is at and answer any questions that we can. Do we have anything else, Marcy?
Just the pretty
So
picture.
we aren't quite done yet. What we wanted to do now is, Marcy, you're going to kind of take over and just start walking through one just so everybody on the webinar can see what the actual certificate of existence looks like in case you haven't been in the program, or remind you. And also, if you have any questions on any particular point, I'd say from this point on, feel free to raise your hand and we'll try to answer as we can and have time here.
Actually, while I am scrambling here, can we have Rachel jump in? I don't think she felt like she had a lot to add, but she did have a couple of points. So Rachel from the insurance department has joined us. Are you there, Rachel?
Oh, I'm here. I don't have any points to add, Marcy. I think you guys covered it really well. Just from, our standpoint, Doug made the comment about we usually start issuing checks in November. Typically, we're ready to issue checks September, October. That timeline changes from year to year. So November is a pretty safe realm, but typically once we're notified that your certificate of existence is complete, we will try to get the check out to you as soon as possible. The only other thing that I was going to add for this group is just making sure that we have the correct addresses on file to issue those checks. If you're interested in setting up ACH, please feel free to contact me and we can try to get that updated before this season. So then we aren't sending a physical paper check, that it just goes directly to your account, your bank account. So that's about all I have.
I didn't know that was an option. That's cool.
Thanks, Rachel.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. So what we have now is we're going to start kind of from the beginning. Get all my stuff organized here so you guys don't have to see me blipping back and forth. And show you what this should look like for you. So when you click on that button on our website to go to your certificate of existence, this is where you're going to get to. So if you need to register as a new user, Doug showed you what those are, what you're probably going to see for that. It's pretty standard stuff. I don't think any of you are going to have any well, I shouldn't say that. You never know where hangups are going to come from.
We should point out, Marcy, if you're having an issue with your user ID or password, since that is through NDIT, often we can't help figure out your username or password issue, that would be something that you'd have to go to NDIT directly for help.
True. And not that we can't get you that direction, but that's probably where we're going to wind up sending you. So this is what happens when you sign in. You are going to, up here on the left-hand side where it says certificates, you could go in there and see your different certificates from the last how many ever years, and you can print off your most recent one. But today we are going to go into edit. So this is what's going to come up. It's going to ask, and a lot of folks don't pay a lot of attention to this stuff, but it's amazing how many of you have changed your address and don't think to change that, update that information anywhere. So please don't have, well, please spend some time looking through all of this stuff and giving it a good look. The phone numbers and the emails that Doug mentioned are all really important to us. In this next page, you're going to get into rosters. So here's a roster for this particular department, or you can go in and edit and update anything you need to in there for Bob, or you can go and add a new roster position. So you can add the folks that you need. So probably a firefighter. It's not going to be a vacant position, and it's going to be active. The reason I'm telling you those things is because it will not let you go through. So I'll show you. Leave something there. Yep. So you don't have all of the information in there, so it's going to hang you up. So it's most of the time. Oh, see, I missed one. You gotta put it that volunteer paid on call or full time. There we go. So now Doug's a part of that fire department. That's all there is to that. And then this is the page where things start getting intense. So you're gonna, whether you're a service type for a rural fire protection district or a fire department, all of this information needs to be double checked. Sometimes people will say that they're a minimum ISO 9 because they just assume they are, but that's an important field to fill in for us. The number of fire engines. This will hang you up the number of total fire department firefighters. If it doesn't match with your roster, it's going to come back and say it doesn't match. It will let you continue on because it could very possibly be that one person is labeled as the fire chief and this thing doesn't want to count it. So that could be all your, so it will let you move on. Number of total fires. This is where we look and say, okay, they had 10 fires and we go back and we look at NFIRS and say, yeah, but none of them made it into NFIRS. So there's a problem here.
Hey, Marcy, could I jump in on that
Yeah,
one real quick?
please do.
So another thing that we check for is not just if a fire department is reporting or not, but we also do try to keep in mind, you know, a real rough idea of how many incidents your fire department may typically have. So if this is, trying to think of a good example here, maybe Bismarck Rural, and just let's say they typically have 500 incidents a year, and we're halfway through the year and they only have 10. That to us would be a little bit of red flag to look into our fire reporting and give them a call just to say, hey, what's going on? We're missing a lot of fires for you or a lot of incidents that's important to us in our state statistics. Let's try to troubleshoot that. So it's just another place where we would just be kind of double checking and making sure things are working right, not necessarily just in this program, but also for other areas that we work with you on.
And I'll let Chris has a question for us. Go ahead, Chris. Oh, you're going to have to unmute. I gave you the option to unmute, but now you have to do it. Not working for you? Okay. I'm not sure why Chris can't come out of unmute, but if you could type your question in this chat, Chris, we'll get it figured out. Maxwell, let's try with you, huh? You should also be able to talk if you can figure out how to unmute you.
It just went mute. It was unmuted. It was showing and it just went mute again there. Can you try maybe clicking them again to unmute?
No, it looks to me like all I can do is give them the option to unmute. Sorry, guys. Okay, if you guys would type something in the chat and then we can figure out what's going on, I would appreciate it. But I'm going to go back to all of these things. So we've got the total fires, that area. Then we get into any changes to your fire protection district and boundary. I understand that that doesn't happen a whole heck of a lot for some of the smaller departments, but it does happen. And this is where we would like you to tell us about it so that we can update all of our maps. One year it was really funny. It said any changes to your fire protection map area in the last year. If yes, please state. And a lot of people wrote North Dakota. So that's not what they're asking. They're just asking what changes you've had so that we can update everything. This is where we get into how are you reporting? So you're required to report according to 1801. How are you getting it done? Are you in an MFIR software or third-party software? Are you doing the ER? Are you at least turning in paper? That's your options there. Services used by the state fire marshal. You can tell us what you're using and what's going well or what's not. And this is where the one place that we often ask for, that we can ask for feedback on how we're doing. So we appreciate you filling that out too. Oh, hey, I got somebody coming in. Marshall Maxwell, I think. Is that you?
On that roster,
Oh, yeah.
do you want every fire department, every person on the fire department on the roster?
I don't know how yeah, it would be nice.
Serious, because I've never done that because I didn't want to write 25 names down there. But you really would like to have that?
We would, because at some point somebody's going to say, how many firefighters are in North Dakota?
Okay.
And that's the only way we know.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
You bet.
And then we're into the area with the money. So we were talking about, I'm sorry?
Marcy, I was just going to add to Marshall's question is, however, once you do update your roster, that roster does save year to year. So once you do get those 20 names or 30 names, or if you're one of the really big departments, 100 names, once you do go those in, you just have to make edits. It will keep it year to year. You don't have to go in and re-enter that data every year. In fact, one of the few sections I think we require that is required to re-enter each year is the financials, is the one that clears every year, and we need the new financial information. But a lot of the certificate of existence, that data is going to save over year to year. So you'd see the same 20 that you entered last year, and then this year you just have to go in and either remove or add the ones that have changed.
Okay, thank you. Basically, all you want is their name. Is there anything you don't need an address, anything like that for them? Or?
Nope. Just the name and that minimum data that it requires when you go to add one. I think it's whether they're volunteer or professional or whatever it is.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Erica has her hand raised.
Sorry, I am just trying to follow along with you and actually click through it, and I cannot access the website. It tells me that it's not found.
Are you clicking from our website?
Yeah.
Okay. Part of it could be, Doug, that it's just not open yet.
Yeah, it could be. We should be able to get into there year round to be able to at least see your department if you have access. Oh, I see. Actually, I just tried to click on our insurance department website. I can't even get in there. So I wonder if it's our site's just the internet's down right now.
Oh, maybe. I was able to, so I'm not, yeah, it sounds like might be intermittent or something like that. But if that persists, Erica, please don't hesitate to call. We'll figure it out.
Thank you.
You bet. Anybody else? Okay. So that's the money part. That's one of the places where a lot of people get confused, or it gives them errors and they get frustrated with it. Please don't beat your head against the wall. Just call. It doesn't take a minute to figure it out usually, and there's no sense getting frustrated. Just give us a call and we will get it sorted out for you. So then down here, you've got the fire chief signature. It's grayed out because the fire chief is not signed in with his account. So until you submit this to the fire chief and then he signs in, or they sign in with their specific account, it's not going to let them sign. So that's why will throw it in or be frustrating for you, because a lot of folks call and say, it's grayed out, can't sign it. I don't know what to do about it. But that's why, because it's forcing you to sign in with two different accounts. And that's the end of it. Once you submit it, it comes through to us and it'll go back to that page. And if you click on certificates, I'll just show you. There you go. You got all your old certificates. You can go in there and grab them. Any questions? Sorry, Chris, we can't get you sorted out up there? All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions. Doug or Rachel, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I'll jump in and let you all know. We are planning to post this online on our website. So actually, I think we're going to post the PowerPoint actually just below where you'd click in to start your certificate of existence or sign in for it. So on that same page, you just click the fire department's window on our main page, and that should take you to that certificate page, and we were going to post it there. And we also, I don't have the detailed information about this, but we'll try to get that information sent out. Maybe you know more, Marcy, is we're going to try to post a recording of this online as well in a place that you can find it easy. So if you have any questions or need to brush it up on something because it's another 3 weeks or a month before you fill yours out, hopefully that's a helpful resource. And also, if you talk to any fire chiefs or any neighbors, any neighboring fire departments, please let them know that this information's out there and that they can review that if they weren't able to make it today, or if they're having trouble. Hopefully it helps. And lastly, always contact us if you have any questions.
And next month's Lunch and Learn is about school inspections. So if you're interested in that, keep your eye out for an email telling you when then where to meet on that one.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that, Marcy. And we're going to have a guest from the Department of Public Instruction to kind of talk about what our office does, what local fire departments can do, and what the Department of Instruction needs and does on the safety side of things as well, especially with school kicking off here very shortly.
I'm done.
All right. If there's nothing else, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. We hope these are helpful. Please let us know if you have any input, any other ideas, any things that you'd like us to try to find information on to get more information out through the Lunch and Learn program. And we're happy to keep doing this. So we appreciate everybody's time today and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, everyone.